if as food as currency, then eating is a conversation. And there's actual research being done by brilliant scientists who show the difference between eating fresh organic food and the conversation that goes on between the cells in your gut and food. And when they put chemical food, the discordance that goes on. And through that communication is the disease. So I've written, eating is a conversation between the soil, the plants, the cells in our gut, the cells in our food, and between our gut and our brain. Eating is an intelligent act at the deepest cellular and microbial level. The cellular communication is the basis of health and well-being. It is also the root of disease. Poisoned food creates disease. We might be ignorant about the links between food and health, but our cells are more intelligent. Our body is more intelligent than the reductionist mechanical mind contemporary humans have developed, where we think of food as fuel and our body as a machine. You know, when I go visit schools, the first question I ask children is, what is food? And because they're learning from textbooks, not from their grandmothers, they get up and say, food is the fuel that runs our bodies, which is a machine. So we have so degraded food and so degraded our bodies to not know anymore what food is. And it's in that confusion that the fake food system is coming in. High fructose corn syrup was the first. Then you might have seen suddenly the Impossible Burger, the burger without meat. And the person who founded it, Pat Brown, his name is, said, I found the most ecological alternative. What does he use? GMO soya, which has killed the monarch butterfly. The glyphosate is causing disease. And he calls it an ecological alternative. And the Impossible Burger shows you the future towards which they are going, because they are looking at actually patenting food now, elements of food. Because if everything you add is synthetic, there's a patent for it. 14 patents on that Impossible Burger. 14. You're really eating a patent monopoly and GMO soya. But it doesn't stop there. It goes further. Because as long as there's an alternative, why would people go for rubbish like this? So you have to create a narrative, just like the narrative that started to make people feel first that organic is backward. You know, the advertisements in Europe by the industry were, it's dirty to use organic manure. You know, it's black, it's dirty. And then they'd bring ads to say urea is white, it's so clean. And that's what changed the mindset. And there's an attempt to change our mindset about food. And not just accept fake food, but accept it as the only solution to climate change. Now, this is where it goes crazy. Because it is true. I've written a book called Soil Not Oil. 50% of all greenhouse gas emissions in the world come from a globalized and industrialized food system. Emissions in the production, emissions in the food miles, emissions through destroying the forest for soya in the Amazon, palm oil in Indonesia, comes from packaging, processing. All of this is hugely energy intensive. That's 50%. Now, will more industrialization, more long distance transport, more energy use solve this problem or make it worse? It'll make it worse. But with it, a pseudoscience is being created. And that pseudoscience is animals are to blame. Animals are causing climate change. They're not. Because animals, as part of the biosphere, of course, they have these short cycles of emitting a little bit of methane, but that methane comes back to the carbon cycle. And in 10 years' time, there's no methane. Otherwise, in India, farmers used to have 20 to 30 head of cattle in each family. In the plains of America, the bison used to roam. You have the reindeer. Now, if animals were constantly emitting methane and it was building up, we'd have a very stinking planet. Like a waste dump. It has a stink. Or when you go past these factory farms in America, they call them CAFOs, the concentrated animal farm operation. You just go past them, there's such a stink. That stink is methane. But our free-range animals are not stinking. There's a little bit. But you can see not just the bad science, because the biogenic methane, it doesn't build up. But you just suddenly out of the blue, Animals are the problem. Kill them. Ireland is talking about killing 1 million sheep. New Zealand is taxing all the animals for their burps. And next to you in Netherlands, they had this huge attack on farmers. And they're using the same excuse. And they want 1/3 of the farms wiped out. No. The solution is make all the farms organic and biodynamic. You'll get rid of the nitrogen problem. Because the nitrogen problem is an industrial agriculture problem. The ecological solutions solve those problems. On our farm, even the scientists who did the study for us, on our farm, I think we did a 20-year study on the valley, and they couldn't believe it, because everyone thinks you put an input, then you have that object. So you put nitrogen fertilizer, you'll have nitrogen. In chemical soils, the nitrogen has depleted 22%. In organic soils, we're not applying any external input. The soil system is creating nitrogen up by 100%. So I think it's time to get rid of this input-output thinking, because living systems create what the systems need and what the systems related to them need. The mycorrhizal fungi creates through its process what the plant needs. Our gut processes, through 100 trillion microbes, and Natasha's here, and she'll be having the course on food and brain. But when Roundup started, and all these chronic diseases started, neurological disorders started, and the graphs were showing it's going that way. And every time I'd show those graphs, the Monsanto lobbyists would attack. Correlation is not causation. So, but a good scientist says, if there's a correlation here, let me look for what the causation is. You don't escape from seeking causation. So there's an MIT scientist that I've come to know, and I said, okay, but let's begin with autism.